Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we are at the Streets of Undefeated podcast. I got my man. Before we start, I got to say a moment of silence to two people. One is Lisa Bell, and the other one is Keisha. I just want to say rest in peace to them before we go on. Good people from our town. You know, I got their family member here, just showing respect. Okay. Now we can break out. I got my man here. We ready. We ready to go. I got my man Saladin, Bell. Y'all all know him from Long Branch, the ace. Been around for a long time. And you said, we started off, we knew you as Bobby, right?
Absolutely.
And you said you grew up, where you say you grew up at?
Actually, born and raised in Asbury Park. Right. We left Asbury. I think I was like 8, 9 years old after the riot in Asbury in 1970. So we left there. It was my grandmother and her 4 daughters, including my mother. Well, my mother wasn't there at the time, but we all came to Long Branch in 1970. We lived on Whitmore Place.
Ooh, I didn't know.
Right on the corner of Whitmore and what's that? The street that runs towards the beach. I forget the name of that.
Not
Been a
Steve
while.
Cooper?
Seaview Avenue.
Seaview Avenue.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
we lived right there on the corner in that big mansion that was there. So we lived there. Everybody came together there, and from there, my Aunt Ruby, my Aunt Pearl, my Aunt Dolores, my mother, and my grandmother. All the women came to Long Branch back then with their children.
Okay.
The brothers, which is 16 of them from my grandmother, the brothers total.
16.
So it was the 5 girls and 11 boys. And it was a set of twins. One of them I'm named after. His name was Robert. They passed. So the guys stayed, the men stayed in Belmont, Asbury, Lakewood, and Neptune. And the women came to Long Branch. I don't know what the story was with that. Conversation never really, at that time, it was like, just get your ass in the car, and we going. So we didn't know. The only thing I remember about my grandfather at that time, after we left, or before we left, was that he was coming back from Vietnam. And he came walking down the street. Bangs Avenue we was living on. He came walking down Bangs Avenue, had his greens on, his duffel bag, and I seen him, and I started running up to him, Grandpa, Grandpa. And from that was the last time I seen my grandfather. Once again, I don't know what happened. I don't know the story, but, that's what went on. So we all came to Long Branch, and then we all winded up branching off. My grandmother winded up living across the street from Grand Court.
Okay.
Back then. My mother was in Pinewood Apartments. My Aunt Ruby was in my Aunt Ruby and Pearl was on Seaview, right next to the house that was on Whitmore, on the corner of Whitmore and Seaview. They lived there. And my Aunt Dolores, I forget where she was at, but I know she was in the area. And then we winded up moving to the Pook side, and from there, that is history.
It's history,
Yeah.
Now, your Aunt Ruby, her kids, who's...
Lisa, Bernadette, and Vet.
Okay, that's their mom.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I remember all them.
Bernadette and Lisa, they passed. God bless them.
Yes.
Vet is in Georgia. And then it's Roxanne and Sarah for my Aunt Pearl. And Helen was, I forgot about Helen. I didn't forget about her, but, I forgot to mention her, so I did forget about her.
Okay.
My Aunt Helen was Sean and Frank's mother. But
Sean, yeah, I remember Sean.
yeah, so my mother took all 3 of us because my Aunt Helen, I don't know what the story is, but that's grown up stuff
That's
back
grown
then.
up stuff,
But
actually.
we all grew up together in Pinewood, from Pinewood to 7th Avenue. We only stayed in Pinewood for like a year or something like that.
Hmm.
And, my mother was putting things together, and the next thing I know, we're in a big ass house on 7th Avenue,
Okay.
and
Okay.
she was there until her death in 2002. So we talking about
Hmm.
72,
Right.
73. So she was there for many years. And I was home when she passed.
Hmm.
Thank God I was able to be at her services and everything. But a lot went on with that. But that's family stuff.
That's
But
yeah.
I was glad I was there. The house was sold and we moved on. And after that, that support that I had
Hmm.
with her, from her,
Right.
and my constant uh, life of indecisions and going back and forth, to prison from living that life, that drug and criminal lifestyle. I winded up going back to prison again in 2003.
All right,
You
hold on,
know,
hold on, hold on. You got to
yeah,
reel me back. I
yeah.
don't want to
So
go
I'm
there
I'm
yet.
gonna rewind because we got some things like in the coming up, the coming of age, like from the 70s to that time.
Hmm.
It's a lot that went on. So I could tell you, but I can also skip past and be like,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
growing up, that we used to be at the center,
yeah.
the
So you
center,
pook
the
side.
hall, yeah.
Yeah. They was
But
like
I'm
pook
I'm I'm
side.
definitely pook side, but I was raised block.
The block.
I,
Yeah.
I was raised the block because my grandmother lived on right there next to Central Place.
Uh huh. Yeah.
You know the street that's across from Grand Court.
Right.
So she lived right there. My aunt Ruby lived in the back. So the center was here. Her backyard, or their backyard, was looking at the center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's how
So
you. Yeah.
all my people lived there. My grandmother was there, and then she moved to Belmont Avenue. But that's when our relationship with the Platts, the Hastings, all the major families that was on that front row, the Greens, and
Hmm.
so on and so forth. All the families that was on that, but that's where our relationship came in at, in dealing with the people. It will never be the same to me, you know, uh, from the way I grew up in Long Branch.
No.
The
Yeah.
people, even though we did bad things, they never seen us as bad people,
People. Right.
because it's what we did. We did bad things,
Hmm.
you know. So I'm gonna let you,
Nah, go, go. I want you to go.
ask me the question because I know it's things,
I love it. I love it. But so your schooling. When did you go to Long Branch High School? You
I,
you started in middle school.
no, actually, yeah. I started in the ninth grade in
That's when you
Long
came to
Branch,
Long
junior
Branch.
high,
Oh,
yeah,
junior high. Okay.
because of my terrible habits of schooling, or my jesters, being the jester in school,
Mm-hmm.
and things that I done in school, in Gregory School, because
Okay.
we
Right.
was on 7th
Avenue.
Avenue.
Right.
I brought a knife to schools one time, and they they was like, yo, this boy, is something wrong with him. So they took me to court, and they was like, we're gonna send you to a training school. So they sent me to a training school.
Right.
I went to the Skillman Training School for
Skillman.
boys.
Yeah, you was telling me. Okay.
Back in
Right.
'74, and from there, that's where I grew up at.
Okay.
I really grew up there because it wasn't no girls to impress with the kickballs. It wasn't no Laura Reeds. There wasn't no damn, I don't know, damn, what's her name again? I'm gonna get back to that. But it was certain people that I wasn't trying to impress.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so I was impressing, or I was trying to impress the coaches, the teachers there. By by doing the right thing, and that's where I got my education at. That's
Oh,
where,
okay.
that's where I got all my education. When I'm talking about all my education, I'm talking about me being the sportsman that I was.
Mm-hmm.
The schooling. I got my 8th grade diploma from them,
Okay. For
and
sure.
I passed all my classes. So all that led to me making that change. So when I came back to Long Branch in '76, I was a different person.
Mm-hmm.
But I was for some, I was a better person because people say, "Oh, you changed," and I was like, "How so?" And they had their opinion, but it really didn't matter to me.
Right.
It was for me to show them that I was different than what I was, and it was mainly the people because the court system can't see it. They only hear about it, or if I come back to court, they gonna do what they do. But I came back in '76. I was telling a couple of people. I said I want to play football. Joey Higgs, Jeffrey Dennis, and all those cats that I grew up with, and they was like, "Oh, just come try out for the football team." And when I came and tried out for the football team,
Now, what year was this?
this was '76.
This 76. Okay.
Yeah, that's when our star quarterback, Phil Dunn. Kevin Dunn, Phil Dunn is his brother.
Okay.
I broke his legs in practice.
I
And it was mainly because, they didn't know me. Like everybody came through that Pop Warner system in Long Branch.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I came through the Pop Warner system at the training school.
Mm.
So, they didn't know me and they was like, oh, he coming in and he's trying to, take over. And I kept telling the coaches, I said they wanted me to play defensive end. They wanted me to put me here because they had everything set.
Mm-hmm.
They had Buckwheat, they had Michael Chaffee, and they had Raymond Farrell as they linebackers. And I was like, nah, I'm a middle linebacker.
That's your position.
Yeah, and they kept playing with me, and then I kind of took it out. It wasn't a dirty hit. It was just what I was used to doing.
Yeah,
hitting
aggressive.
low, taking your
Right.
legs out,
Right.
and
Right.
and
That's
took his
that's
legs
hitting.
out.
Right.
And after that, I had a reputation. I was so scared, because I thought my mother had to pay his medical bill.
Yeah.
I went home and I said, Mom, I broke the kid's legs at practice. And she was like, what happened? And I was like, we practiced. She was like, oh, okay. So, all right. You going to practice tomorrow?
Okay. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Right.
because she did. She knew,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but I didn't. I thought we had to pay,
okay.
for his medical. But no, it was the school that paid for it.
Mm.
But after that, I tried to. I graduated, went to the 10th grade. I tried to stay in school. Actually, I went to the 11th. I tried to stay in school, and it didn't work out. It just wasn't there for me because I wanted to play football, but my concentration was good. I focused on everything when it was football season.
Right.
When football season was over with, I lost my focus, and they didn't know how to get me to get back to it as far as the schooling and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it really affected me, and then my focus shifted to the streets. And then I started hanging out, and next thing you know, my mother said, you got to get a job. And you remember we had the CETA program back then.
CETA, yeah.
So I had a CETA job, and then I stayed on with that job, and I quit school.
Okay.
That's one of the worst mistakes that I made, And from there, it went to the next thing and the other thing, and then that lifestyle, I just, got involved heavy in that lifestyle of the drug and criminal activity. I went from selling and using and doing all the things that put me in that position. Where now the next thing is jail.
Jail. That's,
Yeah. And that's where I was at, man. As a young kid, I was there.
You did your first bid at what?
20.
20 years old? Yeah. Right.
I was in the county at 20. So we talking about 81. That I was in the county. That's when uh, we all got caught up in that behind the center case
Okay.
with uh,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
uh, it was a lot of us involved in that.
I'm trying to think. I didn't mean to cut you off, but was you locked up with Daryl Bell? Was he in the county with you one time? I remember him saying my cousin told me it had to be you because he was like he said he was just sleeping and stuff in the county. Do you remember this at all? And he said my cousin came up to me. He's like, man, come on, you got to get into your bid. So it wasn't you. I thought it was you because you're always the one to come and help somebody and uplift people. So that's why I thought that was. And you always.
They, Dal a little bit younger than me,
Yeah.
and actually we not cousins. We just share the same last name.
Okay, so it was somebody else.
And I really didn't see him, in any of the bids that I did because the first two bids I went down on was murder charges. So
Okay.
I was in a different part of the jail than he would have been. The murder charge, I was charged with it. I ain't gonna say I went down on. I was charged with murder, and everything was resolved, and of course I was exonerated from both of them.
Both. Okay.
That's only when you have to wait and see, so people don't judge, and they're gonna judge no matter.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But in those cases, they both was different. It was 9 of us in 81 behind the center.
Oh yeah.
And then it was 4 of us in 88 with Michelle Gillis.
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
And it's just that you get involved in something like that, or something happens where and all these was drug related. Both deaths was drug related. One was a robbery, and the other one was the use. I hate to say it, but people don't know the truth until they hear the truth.
So they hear the truth, exactly.
And then they have their opinions about who you are and what you did. But once they know the truth, then they say, oh, because I had, like I was telling you last night,
Yeah.
I had somebody come up to me, recently, and they recently passed, and they apologized to me.
Right.
Which was the best thing that I could have heard or
Felt
hear
good.
from somebody that had an opinion about me that was basically wrong.
Didn't know.
Right. But once she found out the truth, she came up and apologized to me.
Wow.
And that was my man's sister, and me and him was cool as hell, him and my brother hung out, Jerome Meekins.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dutch.
Yeah.
Him and my brother Hoover hung out back in the day. So,
Okay, Hoove, yeah.
He had called, he had hit me on Facebook, saying whatever, but it was his sister, and he was like, she was like, I really apologize for what I've been hearing and then what I know.
Right.
And I kind of like blamed you, but now that I know the truth, I can't blame you.
You can't. Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? It kind of like, even though I didn't know that, but you always think that. Like, what do they know from what they don't know?
Right. What are you thinking?
What do they know from what somebody told them from what they don't know, which is the truth.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And it's something that, I made amends with a lot of people, from that. And like I told you last night, I even went and seen Miss Gillis when I came home from prison in '93 after that. And I the first day I was home, I went right to their apartment in Garfield Court. And I knocked on the door, and it was in the summer.
Right.
I knocked on the door, and she let me in. And she was like, how you doing, Bobby? And I explained myself.
Right.
And she, gave me her blessings and said, you know what? We not even gonna go there, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And You know, a lot of people don't know that because I don't share that.
Exactly.
That was for me and her.
Exactly.
You know, that was for me and her, and you know, as long as she knew, that's what mattered to me, because the truth can only come from those that know, not from those that think they know.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean?
That's right. That's exactly right, man. Yeah, that uplifted me when you was telling me last night. I was like, yeah, because you know, you had stories about this, stories about that. You know, people hating for no reason. They don't even know why they hating.
Yeah, they hating because it's what they was told, and it forms an opinion, and it changes a perspective about a person. So you know, to some people I might be this, to other people I might be that.
Right.
But can I worry about that? Do I worry about it?
Exactly.
You know, not really. You know what I mean? Because I know where I'm at today.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? And back then, I might not have, you know, thought about it because I was in it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I was,
Right.
you know, we say when we're in prison, we in the belly, but I was in the shit. You know,
Right.
so being in that shit, you don't think about other shit. You thinking about the shit. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And it just kept me, you know, in towards that. But in reality, my thinking was, I can't do this. This ain't me. I can't do this forever.
Right.
I know that. And when I got clean in 2003, by way of getting caught up in another case, that's where it started at. So you know, my story is this: in 2003, when I got arrested for that charge of selling somebody some drugs, I went to the county. I'm kicking, and somebody kicked me. And the thing is that, and when I say they kicked me, it was the reality kicked me. But the spirit spoke to me, and it said, you know, where you want to be when you turn 50? That this is no lie. I heard it. You know, whether it was a subconscious a voice or a conscious voice.
Yeah.
You know, it just came out of nowhere. Where do you want to be when you turn 50? And I looked around, and I was in the cell by myself in Miami County Jail, One Waterworks Road, and I said, I don't want to be, you know, dead. I don't want to be in jail. I don't want to be homeless, and I don't want to be living with my aunt, because my aunt, you know, she cool, but you know, that was Dolores.
Oh, okay.
But I was like, no, I don't want to be in that situation. So I made the decision, you know, that day, once I answered that question, because it was nothing else. It wasn't no response after that.
Okay.
So I guess I answered that question
Right.
for whoever asked me that question. And once I made that decision, I'm coming up on 23 years clean, working at the same job for the last 18 years at a drug program. And like I said, you know, it's ironic that somebody that lived that life for so long is now in the business of helping others that's going through that same struggle.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and that's the blessing for me, because now I see where I was at. Now I see and I understand where they're at. You know, it's a little bit difficult now because in the industry of saving lives, as they say, you know, we say changing lives, because you know, the only one that can save anybody's lives is yourself. You know, so
Right.
in changing lives, when you talk to some of these brothers or you listen to what they have to say, you don't form an opinion, but you give them, you know, the encouragement to do what they need to do for themselves.
Right.
You know, it's not for anybody else, because, and I mean, we talking about recovery because, you know, I recovered from some shit, as you know. You know, I went through some shit.
Stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
And I just want to speak about that more so, because that's what affected my life. You know, the drugs, the lifestyle, going back and forth to New York, trying to
Right.
find and deal with something or change something or make something different and better than what
What it
somebody
is.
else had.
Right.
You
Right.
know, it's about giving back now. So you know, when I see the guys, you know, and they working with me at the program, and I listen to them like I said,
Mm-hmm.
and once they finish, then you know I give them my advice. I give them, you know, my story
Okay.
about how things get saying. The best role model is somebody that's been there.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
it ain't always the school teacher or
Mm-mm.
or or
Mm-mm.
or the guy down the street. It's somebody that been there that
Right.
understands.
I always say that. Right.
And even now with the new I'm not going to say new, but the changes that they're making, they are new.
Mm-hmm.
The changes that they making in the state and in the federal government as far as licenses and certifications for drug addiction counseling and
Mm-hmm.
so on. These people don't have to be or don't have to have come from that lifestyle.
Mm.
So you telling somebody, or you trying to talk to somebody that
Never been
that
there.
that never been there, and you trying to tell them how to change that behavior. When you never changed the behavior because you never had it.
Never had it.
Right.
Right.
So my thing is that the only one that can help, and I'm not going to say that. Strike that. The ones that can help put you in a better position
Mm-hmm.
is the ones that know. I'm not saying that they don't know. They know the book, but
Right.
they don't know the shit.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep saying
Yeah.
the shit because that's what it is.
Yeah.
They don't know the things that those people. You don't know about eating out a garbage dumpster. You don't know about sleeping underneath a bridge. You don't know about begging for change and selling your body for this, that, and the third, so you can get that bag or whatever that hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it every day in North.
No. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
I see it every day, and people is like, well, how did he leave Long Branch and go to North
That was my next question. Yeah.
and become who he is? You know what I'm saying? But it's not where you at. It's what
What
you
you do
doing.
with it? Yeah. I believe.
And because I was there, or because I came right here to Red Bank when I got paroled, January 27, 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them people at that parole office right down the street that I will not be coming back to this town. And they said, well, where you going to be at? I said, I'm staying in North. I got a better chance there than I do here. Because Monmouth County, I hate to say it, they definitely down with the recidivism rate.
Mm.
They definitely look for things to put you back in jail rather than trying to help you with the rehabilitation of yourself. And rehabilitation of yourself is within yourself. It's no program that rehabilitates you. It's you that rehabilitates you and have you use the program to help you. But it's you that I learned this a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Rehabilitation is within you. It starts with you.
Right.
And when I told them that I wasn't coming back, you should have seen the look on their face. And when I went to Newark, the parole officer that I got there was 10 times better than the parole officer that I had on any bed that I came home from.
Wow.
Because she was willing to help me.
Right. Right.
When I had got the job right next to Integrity, I got a job doing renovation on an apartment building, right? And they was paying $500 a week, sometimes $650 if you work Saturdays, but it was cash, And I told her, I said, well, I don't get a check, they pay us cash. She said, I don't care what they pay you, just pay your fines, and that's it.
Wow.
And she came to the job and called me out and seen me out on the site and everything. Never had a problem. I mean, she was the best she was the best thing that I needed in transitioning
You remember her name?
to that area. No, Miss Milano.
Miss Milano. Okay.
Miss
Shout out to Miss Milano.
Yeah, Miss Milano.
Okay.
And she was real down to earth, because I guess from dealing with the guys in North, for all those years, when she seen that, I was really trying, because I really didn't want to come back here. I really didn't want to come back here, because I knew if I did, I would have got right back into, what I was into before. And that was selling and using and, running the streets. And, everything changed when I made that decision on January 27, 2007.
So when you got out, you went straight to integrity?
No, I listen, that's the other part of my story. When I got out, I had 7 different jobs in 4 months. Okay. So we talking about from January to February of 2007. I had 7 different, because they was all temp jobs.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But
yeah,
I stayed on my grind, and man, listen, my knees and my hip is probably because of the problems that I had with that, is probably from all the walking that I did, in North Arlington, East Rutherford. I mean, I was all over working for these temp companies. So, I didn't get that until, but I stayed close, because they always said, stay close and just let that miracle happen.
Okay.
And I stayed close by getting a job. One of the guys that I knew that worked for Integrity, he got me the job at the construction site.
Okay.
And while I was there for like the 8 months, I'm doing my thing. Something popped up at one of the locations at Integrity, and he said, "Yo, they got a job opening at the Academy building. You should look into that." And I went in, put the application in, and this is shout out to Allison Swartz. I went and put the application in. A couple of counselors that was in the halfway house that I was in went over there. When I told them, I was like, yeah, I put in the application for, the job at the Academy. They went in, they put they word in, Timothy Carmen, Leroy Crosley, Paul Wright. They all came running, like, letting her know that those were my referrals,
Okay.
because I ain't had nothing else. And I got the job. I started January 7th, 2008, and I've been there ever since.
Ever since. Wow,
Ever since.
that's a blessing. Mugs that ain't even doing nothing can't even do that. I mean,
I ain't gonna say it's hard, and I ain't gonna say it's difficult, but it depends on where you at. It can be hard, but once you get into the necessities of your life, what you need,
right?
Not what you want, is what you need. I need health care.
Wow, that's
I
heavy.
need Social Security.
Right.
I'll be 65 in 2 months. So now when I look at my Social Security adjustment,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, but and it's like 20 years of constant straight work. So if I was out there in that life, where do I see,
What would you be seeing? Yeah.
Yeah, and we have to see that, because a lot of that comes, with homelessness. The situation that we have now. That, it's one of the number one problems in some of these cities.
It is. It seems like Newark trying to fix it though.
New York is doing their thing. New York, that mayor Modandi.
Yeah.
He took a whole building. He said, "Listen, this is what we gonna do." Newark, they doing what they need to do, but at the same time, how much can they do? They not taking the whole bit, because you got people that have that attitude, like, I'm not going in no shelter.
Right.
And the reason why they don't want to go in the shelter is because
it's a bad thing.
No, they don't want to lose that freedom that they have by being out there. That's one of the things. And then the other thing is that, people have fears about going in the shelters and what might happen. And, certain things or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I bet you everybody in the shelter.
Right.
It's
I hope so.
13, 12 degrees, maybe 7 tonight.
Yes.
You know, I'm
Yes.
quite sure it's a lot of people, and because it's cold blue.
Right.
You know,
Right. Yeah.
and cold blue in Newark is they open up the doors to Penn Station.
Oh, okay.
And they all be in there. So when
I
we
didn't know
come
that.
through, like when I go back home tomorrow, and I go through, you know, what do I smell?
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's kind of crazy, but that's part of what we got going on in society.
Mm-hmm.
How do they fix it? That's their decision on how do they fix it. But a lot of them don't accept what they want to do for them, you know, and that's the problem. But my thing is like, you know, I look at that and I say, there goes I. You know, that could be me.
Me. Wow.
You know, if I make the wrong decision again, you know, if I make a decision that takes me there, you know, I don't know how far I go.
Right.
You know, so that could be me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then be the other thing is that everything that's going on today is not what was going on when I was out there.
Right. Right. Right.
You
right.
know,
Doug
and
kinda said
even
that.
40 years ago, 50 years ago, when I used to run in Harlem, you know, as a 19, 18-year-old kid,
Right.
you know, across 110th Street, you know, doing the thing. I mean, like, playing the role where I didn't get robbed because I knew how to move, you know, and the drugs ain't the same.
No.
And it's a lot of chemical-based stuff. We have a lot of co-current diseases, you know, the mental and the physical. And it's sad, bro, when you see, because remember, I was also a peer recovery specialist, right? I worked in the hospital in Jersey City.
Okay.
Newark and Jersey City is probably the worst besides Tom's River.
Mm-hmm.
Tom's River had a lot of, you know, well, I ain't gonna say addicts, people that use. I'm not gonna
Okay.
say addicts. I
Okay.
apologize. People that use.
Wow.
They had a lot of deaths down there a few years ago.
Really?
Yeah, they had the highest death rate of overdoses in the state of New Jersey a few years ago.
Ocean County.
It was bad down there. That was in Tom's River. I forget the name of the hospital, but Jersey City and Newark.
Yeah.
Listen, I worked in both hospitals. I worked in a lot of hospitals as a peer recovery specialist.
Okay.
Jersey City and Newark was the worst. I mean, I seen things, and you try to talk, because, you know, as a peer recovery specialist, you have to have 4 years clean to even be considered for that position.
Wow. Okay.
You know, you have to be, you know, at least cemented into your recovery to the point where they was like, okay, you know, he could talk to somebody and give them some hope. You know, and that's what my whole thing is. I give you my experience. I share my experience, strength, and hope with you.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I'm not one that go to the meeting and all that stuff. I did that.
Yeah.
But that's not my story. You know, my stories is jails and institutions. And that's what I want to go back to. That's why I stay on point with mine.
Yes.
You do. And I know that if I get back to that, the using, the selling, that's where it's gonna lead to. But when I worked at the hospital, the people that came through that I seen that you try to help, and some of them that you can't help because physically they need something else. Like you can't tell this person like, yo, you need help.
No.
You really need help because you know of they condition and they state of mind. You can't tell them that because they don't see that.
No.
They don't see that because of the addiction. You know, they use.
Yeah.
And
They
they
might
keep
get offended, right?
It ain't that they gonna get offended, but they don't understand, you know, the reality of what help you trying to give them.
Right.
You know, it's like you just coming at them because that's your job. You know, but the reason why I got fired is because I wanted to make sure that they got the help that I got. You know, and at the time I didn't think that things was going that way for some of them based on the way we did things. That's something that I keep to myself, but I don't go no further with it because I don't want to, burn my bridges when it comes to that type of employment, But it's just that you see it and you like, yo, bro, just call me, man, just call me, and they have phones.
Right.
They can communicate with you, but it's just the reality of what they want, and actually they don't know what they want, but you trying to tell them what they need, and they need to think about the change that's going to help them and put them in a better position. But it's addiction. It's addiction, and in addiction, when we recover, I said this when I received my award from the Masons, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That we recover from a lot of things. We not just recovering from the addiction of drugs. We have to recover our mental and physical being, our spiritual self. We have to recover our relationships, which is with family, children, friends, so on and so. We got to recover our financial situation, and that's what I just focused on as far as me being able to put myself in that position where my my Social Security adjustment is good now.
Yeah.
Because I thought about the recovery of that. If I didn't work, then how can I collect Social Security?
That's right, bro.
Most people that don't work, like most of these guys that's out there and gals that's out there using, they probably didn't work, or some of them did work, and they are getting some form of help, and they tend to give them the welfare or whatever, and it helps them out, but.
Right.
When you like the first week, we in the first week of the month, right?
Yeah, that's going.
And you see what's going on, a lot of running around, and and it's always them, and you like, wow, But that's the reality. I'm in the worst place that people think addicts shouldn't be, but it's the best place for an addict.
Wow.
That made that decision, to turn his life around. You know what I mean? And the whole thing is that I see everything. I see it all. I see what's going on, and do I allow it to affect me to the point where, man, I think I'm gonna go ahead and try this. You know what I mean? It's never been that, bruh. I done walked past. I'm telling you, I live across the street. You been there when we used to have the jams back in the summer, or the 3-day festivals.
Yeah.
With, what's your boy Crazy Legs and them?
Yeah.
When they used to have the festival.
Rocksteady and them, yeah.
Yeah, the Rocksteady crew. Now they started off in North. When they first started that, they started off in North.
Okay.
That part is integrity area. That's integrity and cure. That's the Spanish drug program, and then the international drug program, which is integrity.
Oh, okay.
And they have 14 buildings total. 12 of them. No, 9 of them is in that park.
Okay.
And I live in one of them now. So when they have that festival every year, I just walk right across the street.
You're right there.
But during the pandemic in 2020, I had my second surgery on my knee.
That's right.
And when I was able to get around, now I had to go back to work after my therapy, right? And North was a ghost town. I mean, a total ghost town.
Right.
Because, it was...
nobody moving, right?
Yeah, we had to stay in. And I walked through that park. The only ones that was out in on the street, out and about, was the people that was in that life.
Wow.
And I seen more paraphernalia, needles, bottles, bags, in that park. It became their haven.
Right.
So, I walk through the gauntlet every day, of the trash of people using.
Right. Right.
And it never affected me. It never changed my mind.
Right.
And I say that to say this to people that, that might be tempted by something, that, you have to realize that, your temptation can be your downfall, but at the same time, you can divert it, or you can push it to the side and keep it moving one day at a time. You just can't run and think you're going to do everything in 1 minute. 1 hour is one day. To give yourself that day,
Right.
so you can go ahead and prepare yourself and keep it moving. And that's what it was for me. I'm not patting myself, because I know this. I have mad respect at my job. From the clients
Right.
to the employees.
18 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and when they say how long you been there, 18 ain't really the number, because you become a integrity member when you first walk in the door. So I walked in 2006. So actually it's 20 years.
Wow.
Of going through the process.
Right.
Because I went through the therapeutic process at Integrity, and then I moved on. But I came from the program in the prison, which was, far worse than anything else. But it was good for me. When I say it's worse, there's no program worse than a program in the prison, because there's no deviation whatsoever. Everything is when you wake up in the morning, you program it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So when I got to the halfway house, after being in Southern State, when I got to the halfway house, I was like, I'm good. I felt that strength. I felt that glow around me, that, I was different from most because of where I came from.
Right.
What I went through. And them racist police down there, they tried you.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
But
what was that like in there?
It was a learning. It was a challenge, and it was a learning experience, and it challenged my emotions, and my reaction, and it taught me a lot of things, that don't react, because I had this sergeant. She was the most racist woman that I knew, or I came across in the system, not on the street, but in the system. And she tried me, because their whole thing is to defeat you.
Right.
To break you down and to put you in chains. Just like they did our ancestors when they put them in chains as slaves. She was really trying to break me down and put me in bondage, by putting me in a cell, locking me down and all. But the whole thing, I'm here to get help. And you trying to divert me from that by instigating with your racist mentality.
Right.
But I got past that. I got past that, and I got through that. 9 months, graduated, left out of there, top of the house, everything. So all she did was push me to do better.
Right.
And to become better, and that led me to be better today. As I sit here today with you.
Right.
I'm better off. As I tell people, right? And this is a big one right here. This is a big one right here, B. Because a lot of people say, I think I'm better now.
Yeah.
Because of where I'm at. What I have, what I do, all that, as a photographer, having my own business, doing my own thing.
Yes.
Having the luxury to go in the bank account and take out a couple of dollars if I need it. That's because I saved, and I was blessed with the job that I got.
Yes.
And the position that job put me in, which was the superintendent of a building.
Right.
A 24 unit apartment building.
Okay.
And I was given an apartment. I live rent free, so I really don't have no bills. But I've been able to save a lot and do little with it. But people have said, getting back to my point, was I think I'm better. Oh, he think he better. And I heard it, and sometimes, B, you can see it on their face. When you come up to them, like when I come down here, it's always for, either a party, right?
Yeah.
Or a service. I hate to say it, just
Yeah.
like the day Miss Brown, God bless her,
Yeah.
I came for her service. But it's all, and that's when we usually see everybody, because the service is the party.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we don't have the parties that we used to have
No.
before, the oldies but goodies and things like that.
Right.
And I don't know why, I don't know what the mentality is, but when I see people and I walk up to them and I say, what's up? Or they say, what's up? And I can look at their expression. You learn how to read people. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Either from their stance or their facial. And I learned how to read people, and I'm like, okay, we go.
You can see it from across the room.
Yeah, absolutely. Because people will be side eyeing you and like, oh, this motherfucker. Listen, I dress. I my mother, my brother, Hoover. I'm a dresser based on what I learned from my mother, and my mother was the approval of how I went out of that house when I was a teenager.
Right.
Boy, go upstairs, take that off. That don't look right. You know what I mean?
Right.
And my brother Hoover, he was like, nah, bro, you gotta do better than that. So I learned how to dress, and I'm a dress not to impress you, but to impress myself.
Right.
You know what I mean? So does that make me better? Getting back to that point, because that's what people say. Oh, he think he better. So my thing is, my comeback is, I don't think I'm better, but I'm better off. I'm better off not being where I was and where I could continue to go if I was doing what I'm doing or what you doing right now.
Yeah.
And
they would love to see you like that.
I believe that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm quite sure there is some that say, I give them a year. I give them this.
Yeah,
but see, they wondered, like, and I know it happened. I hate to say it, man, because I don't want to be negative about anything or anybody. But I know people have been negative about me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because of what I've done and what I've been through. You know what I mean? But at the same time, why be negative? I mean, the whole thing with us, and I'm talking about black people, is that we're not uplifting of one another.
No.
We always trying to,
compete.
But we always trying to hold somebody down or bring somebody down, and it's sickening to the point where even today, like I seen a post today. And this sister, she an activist, and she said that we're not African Americans. And I wanted to say this because, it raised the point about who we are and how we identify. Because we're not African Americans, we're Black Americans, right? Because that's what we identify with. What's on the application is Black and African. So is we talking about the Africans that came here or the Africans that was here?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's so much, and by us identifying with a certain a stigma, or identifying with a certain ethnic group, right?
Yeah.
Does it change, the way we are? Because we don't stick together.
Right.
Is my point. We don't stick together.
No.
If we African or we Black, we still don't stick together. We always had this problem, man, and I don't understand it. That here we go again with this shit.
Yeah. Exactly.
Here we go again with this shit.
Yeah.
Like why he over here, or why they moving over here, or whatever the case may be. But like I don't get it. You know, when is it going to change? And it's like they say, if we were to stick together, if we was to stick together
Right.
and put our minds together and put our abilities together, we'd be the most powerful people on this planet.
Even the money that they say.
You see what they doing in
Yeah.
Africa now
What's
with the African name, Burkina Faso, Milan, what was the other one? Niger. All those countries took back their countries
okay.
from the French, which is,
French, okay,
you know,
yeah.
they just as worse as America.
Yeah.
You know, they
Colonized.
colonized and whatnot.
Colonized,
But
yeah.
they did Africa, you know.
Mm-hmm.
America did South America and North America
Yeah,
and places like that in America.
Because I think they tried that with Haiti. They wasn't having it.
Yeah,
French,
French.
yeah.
The French. That was the first country to get rid of or to exile the French. They defeated them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And ever since then, they've been treated like, you know, they don't get no help, no assistance.
It's
And
so
that's the
rough for them.
agreement that France has with every country in the world, and even the United States. The United States don't get them no help.
No,
You know,
no, not at all.
None at all. I remember the first time I had the pleasure of going to Dominican Republic.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I went there was with Timmy Bland, Smiley, for his wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went over there, you know, I'm curious, you know, because now I'm starting to grow
Right.
on the intellectual tip and knowledge.
Right.
And you know, you see the dark skinned, you know, Haitians that's working around, you know, doing certain things at the resorts, and then you see the light ones, right, which is the Dominican.
Mm-hmm.
So you seen the racism right there. The Dominicans worked in the resorts. The Haitians worked outside the resort.
Wow.
So you look at it like this, and this is how I looked at it, and I don't care what people say, but it is what it is.
Right.
You had the house niggas and you had the field niggas.
Bottom
you know
line.
that, but they wasn't that. That's what they made them. Like, y'all gonna be out here in this field.
Mm-hmm.
So when we went on the tours or we went on the excursions, that's who we seen. We didn't see them.
Right.
You know,
Right.
they was in the resorts, you know, with the suits on and
Right.
everything. The other ones, they would. And then I talked to the brothers, and they told us, they told everything. They told me everything, because I was like, wow. You know, the things that they, like, we have the birthright citizenship here.
Yeah.
They don't have that thing. Even though they born there,
Yeah.
they born in Dominica. I'm talking about Haitian people, dark-skinned Haitian people.
Right.
They got to go.
I ain't know that.
That's the same thing Trump trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I see
You know,
it.
that's the same thing Trump trying to do.
Right.
Even though you born here, if you born in the country, then how can you not say that
Right.
you from this country? Like, no, you was just born here. You gotta go.
You gotta go.
Yeah. But I mean, that's you know, getting off the subject, but it's the learning experience. You know, we call them LEs in the program. You know, we get the learning experience when we go to different places and we see different things. When we go to different situations, wherever. You know, now everything is a learning experience to me.
Right.
You know,
Right. Me
because
too.
they say when you start using, the day you start using is the day you start growing. But once you stop using, that's when your intellectual mind starts expanding.
Right.
You know, your thinking, you know, changes. Everything.
Gotta
It's a
exercise the
growth.
mind. Yeah.
You're not going to grow to be 6'5" and shit like that.
Right,
You know,
right,
when I say you stop growing,
Yeah.
but you'll start growing. But it's just certain things that now, on the intellectual tip, you know, your mind,
Yeah.
your cognitive thinking, all that changes. You know, now you like, whoa, wow.
Yeah.
You know, because you're absorbing a lot more information.
Oh, yeah.
I absorb so much information that, you know, I have to stop and remember what I just read
Right.
or what I
Right.
just talked about, because it goes in and then it goes right to the storage area. You know, so when I have a conversation, and this is how quick it comes back. When I have a conversation with somebody and we talking about certain things,
Yeah.
and whether it's recovery or the things that led me to where I'm at today, or the things that involve, you know, my life
Right.
today,
Right.
it comes up just like that. You know, we start talking about it, and they be like, "Damn, where you get all this information from?"
Yeah.
And it's from the growth. You know, it's from you. You know, getting everything back.
Yes. Yeah.